Welcome back to NerdCrave, and in this series where I talk about all the possibilities of what we'll be able to do with the new Steam Deck when it comes out this December or early next year, I'm today going to be discussing PlayStation Vita games that we can play on the Steam Deck. PlayStation Vita was essentially a failed console, a great console that a lot of people really love, with a lot of games that are fantastic, and particularly a lot of fantastic indie games. The problem with the PlayStation Vita is that recently Sony suggested that they were going to shut down the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita digital storefronts. Now, they did give us a reprieve, they did go back on that, and as of right now, in August of 2021, the PS Vita digital store is still open and you still can download and purchase games on your PS Vita. However, that will change eventually. All consoles eventually become defunct and you can no longer use digital storefronts on, look at the Wii, for example. The Wii is now shut down. The DS, the DSi, they're shut down. So, this is going to happen to the Vita, and probably sooner than later. So in terms of game preservation and being able to access some of these games on more modern hardware, arguably with better visuals, better performance, things like that, some of the most definitive ways to play all of these games right now are on Steam, and you'll be able to access your Steam library through the new Steam Deck. So, let's get right into it. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I put out all kinds of content like this every week. Hit the like button if you would. It helps out a ton, gets this video out in front of more eyeballs, which is always a good thing for me and for you, because the more views I can manage to get, the more I'm motivated to create more content like this. Makes sense, right? Okay, let's get into it. Number 1. Persona 4 Golden. With the Persona series in its 25th anniversary year, there has never been a better time to dive into the series. Particularly, this version of the game was locked on the PS Vita, and while most would agree it was one of the best games on the console, very few people owned a Vita, so unfortunately this game has been a bit of a hidden gem until this year when it was finally released on Steam. When the Steam Deck launches this holiday, those lucky enough to have gotten a pre-order in will be able to play the definitive edition of this truly excellent game once again on a handheld console as it was first intended. Number 2. Danganronpa 1 and 2. These creepy visual novels take the idea of the Phoenix Wright series and turn its investigation and murder trials to the creepiest end. You play as several high school students who are forced to kill each other battle royale style. You must solve each murder to try and identify the killers and put them to trial before they kill you. The Danganronpa games are beloved Vita titles for good reason and will be a sound addition to any Steam library. It's worth noting that a collection of these games is coming to the Switch very soon, so the Steam Deck is not the only way to play these games on modern hardware, but I'm willing to bet they will be cheaper on Steam, and arguably, with the flexibility of adjusting graphics and performance on the Steam Deck, these games will likely look and perform better than the versions on the Switch. Number 3. Ys Memories of Celceta is a reimagining of Ys 4, combining elements of the two different versions on the Super Famicom and the TurboGrafx CD. The Ys series is known for fast-paced action combat, full of special attacks where you can take control of multiple characters in your party. Ys continues to serve us great fictional worlds rich with story and lore. This was first released on the Vita in 2018 and later on the PS4, but you will find it on Steam for quite a bit less than the cost of the physical versions on the Vita and PS4. Plus, when the Vita Online store shuts down, it's great to know that this and other games in the wonderful Ys series will live on for future generations on Steam. Number 4. Steins Gate is arguably the best visual novel on the Vita. Some would say one of the best visual novels of all time, and Steins Gate focuses on a deep and psychological look at time travel. The art is visually stunning, and the characters are vibrant and compelling. A physical copy on the Vita will set you back at least $60 if you can find it. This game is also available on the Nintendo Switch, so the Steam Deck is not the only modern way to play it, but arguably the Steam version of the game is superior because of access to all the bonus content and the other games in the series. Number 5. Axial Verge is a classic 8-bit style Metroidvania. It will feel very familiar to those who played the early NES Metroid games. Axial Verge is a love letter to Metroid, almost to the point of being a clone, but is still very much loved. While this game is not particularly expensive or hard to find on the Vita, it's nice to know that you will be able to play games like this one on newer platforms, and in the case of the Steam Deck, still have that portable, handheld experience. It's also worth noting that the sequel, Axial Verge 2, just released this week, so if you want to play both games on the same handheld console, you will either have to play it on the Nintendo Switch or the Steam Deck, as the sequel will not likely appear on the Vita. Number 6. Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors is an incredibly deep shoot-'em-up game with a ridiculous amount of content that sadly suffered from being just too expensive at launch. $40 for a digital copy, and at the time no physical copy available, made the game fade into obscurity. Limited Run Games resurrected the game a couple of years ago with a physical release, but sadly if you missed out on that, it will cost you around $100 to buy now. If you've never played a Darius game, you can expect a fast-paced shoot-'em-up similar to games like R-Type, but in this series, strangely, all the alien enemies are modeled after sea life. You're shooting huge mechanical fish and waves of flying shellfish. It's bizarre, but the gameplay mechanics are so tight and the visuals are so good, you don't have time to question what's going on here. Number 7. Rogue Legacy. Rogue Legacy, as its name implies, is a roguelite platform game where you enter randomized dungeons, each with 4 unique environments and 4 bosses to conquer. The neat thing about this particular game lies in its death mechanic. When your character dies, and you will die often, you will be given the chance to continue playing, but as a descendant of the original character, and this is where it gets interesting. Your descendants may have any one of several genetic abnormalities which could affect gameplay positively or negatively. You could be reborn as a giant, or a dwarf, affecting your ability to access platforms or hit distant enemies, or you could be born colorblind, rendering the game in black and white. This offers the player hundreds of possible variations on the gameplay loop, drastically increasing replayability. This game and sequel are available on Steam, often for less than $10. Number 8. Velocity 2X is the evolution Sonic the Hedgehog fans never got. Velocity 2X is both a vertical scrolling shoot-'em-up and a side-scrolling action platformer, but in both cases, speed is the name of the game. Traverse these visually stunning levels on foot or in your teleporting Quarp Jet. Lieutenant Kai Tana must use her quick reflexes and the power of the jet to free her fellow prisoners and find a way home. The level design gives you Metroid vibes, while simultaneously being as fast-paced as any Sonic game. While you can get this game on many systems, the Steam Deck will be the best and only way to play it handheld after the Vita store shuts down. Number 9. Guacamelee. In Guacamelee, you grapple, punch, kick, and throw your way through this Latin-inspired Metroidvania. As a masked undead luchador, your character Juan has the incredible power to break down walls, climb impossible cliffs, and knock out hordes of undead enemies. Guacamelee stands out in the sea of indie Metroidvanias for having gorgeous visuals, fantastic music, and incredibly kinetic combo-based combat. Add to all this the mechanic of switching between the living world and the world of the dead, which lets you solve environmental puzzles and beat difficult enemies. You have one of the deepest and richest combat systems in any Metroidvania ever made. And as an added bonus, the sequel, Guacamelee 2, is also available on Steam, should you not be able to resist the charms of this fantastic series. Number 10. Hotline Miami. This top-down hitman simulator gets obvious inspiration from the early Grand Theft Auto titles. You are tasked with cleaning up an area or building of bad guys, but are they really bad? Are you the ultimate psychopath bent on murder and mayhem? Are you a hitman, or is this the fever dream of a madman? Find out as you traverse the game's 19 chapters, leaving a trail of blood in your wake. Oh, and be prepared to die. A lot. While all the enemies are pretty much one-hit kills, you can easily get into positions where the enemy have you outflanked, and you will have to try over and over again to approach a room in a way that allows you to kill without getting scragged yourself. Number 11. Zero Escape: Virtue's Last Reward. Half visual novel, half escape room puzzle, Zero Escape is the sequel to 999 on the Nintendo DS, or 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. In Virtue's Last Reward, you are again brought against your will to a mysterious facility along with several other participants, and you must solve puzzles and explore the massive facility, uncovering secrets to progress in the game. If you're a fan of deep stories and interesting characters, this visual novel hits all the right notes while having enough to do to keep it from feeling like you're just reading a book. Interestingly, this series continues with AI The Somnium Files, which has been very popular recently, and you can buy all 3 games in an affordable bundle on Steam and experience the entire story on your Steam Deck. Number 12. Mary Skelter Nightmares. The Mary Skelter series is a very unique dungeon crawler RPG with a neat little story hook. All the characters are modeled after storybook characters like Thumbelina, The Little Mermaid, and Cinderella, but these aren't your usual fairy tale girls. The turn-based combat takes advantage of a blood gauge that lets the girls enter massacre mode in order to temporarily raise their stats and give them bonus skills. While this game can be expensive and hard to find on Vita, Mary Skelter 2, which was released on Switch and Steam digitally, is quite affordable and includes a port of the first game for one low price. Number 13. Claire. Claire is a creepy and artistic 2D survival horror game that should not be missed. Claire succeeds in providing an atmospheric, deeply unsettling experience coupled with a story you won't want to put down, and the soundtrack and special effects all work in tandem to make this game a must-play for survival horror fans. The art style might look retro, but there is nothing cute about the sense of dread and the suspense that you cannot shake while playing this game. Unseen threats are stalking Claire from the shadows. Aided by her dog and armed only with a flashlight, Claire must conquer her fear and find her comatose mother. As Claire, you must contend with the panic system as you play, a mechanic that increases the tension and scariness of the environment as she becomes more afraid. You can add this masterpiece to your Steam library for less than $10, which is an insane value because the limited run physical for this game on the Vita will run you $150 to $200. Number 14. Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon. Inspired by classic 8-bit Castlevania games, and indeed created by some of the same people who worked on those classics so many years ago, Curse of the Moon is a love letter to the games that spawned an entire genre. While these games are virtually on every platform known to man, the Vita was a perfect home for this game when it first launched. It remains one of the best examples of a 2D Metroidvania done right on a handheld platform. Unfortunately, the only physical version of this game for the Vita was released by Limited Run Games and was rare from day one. You can expect to pay $250 or more for the physical copy, while the digital copy on Steam is often on sale for under $10. It is also worth noting that the sequel, Curse of the Moon 2, is available on Steam, while it never made its way to the Vita platform, at least in physical form. Number 15. Corpse Party Blood Drive is the third game in the Heavenly Host saga, and the finale to the series that starts with Corpse Party and its sequel, Corpse Party Book of Shadows, neither of which was available on the PS Vita. Blood Drive really should not be played without at least playing the first game first. The second game, Book of Shadows, is considered optional by some, but currently the only way to experience the entire saga on one platform is through Steam. This series has always been a portable series, with various versions appearing on the 3DS, the PSP, and the Vita in various regions. Corpse Party Blood Drive is a 3D adventure game with puzzle elements set in a horror environment. As you look for key items to unlock puzzles and progress the story, you will be pursued by ghostly spirits who can easily kill you. You must escape and hide, as there are very few ways to actually get rid of the spirits, at least until much later in the game. This ensures the tension is dialed up to 11 at all times. I'm interested in building a bigger list of games, and I know that there are more Vita games, and games, for example, like I mentioned earlier in the video, where some of the games are on the PSP, some of them are on the Vita, like the Trails in the Sky series that I mentioned in other videos. There are so many games that have kind of been locked to some of these older consoles, and it's really exciting to figure out which ones of these games we can play on Steam so that we have access to entire blocks of content that was previously locked to older systems. So let me know down in the comments, what are some of your favorite console games that have come to Steam in the last few years, or comment on what games you would like to see come to Steam in the future. That's absolutely interesting to know what people want to play, what your greatest memories are on systems like the PSP, the Vita, the DS, etc. So let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, stay classy.